And yeah, I mean, 4 years later, we're still here. And yeah, that lesson was sort of repeated again. Our second son was born also into the NICU. He wasn't as nearly as severe as our first son, but we already had things well set on their way to moving, but that just kind of put the nail in the Canadian coffin, I guess you could say, because it just sort of, confirmed that this is what we want to be doing. And
welcome to the Truly Expat Travel Podcast. I'm your host, Paula, and this is Season 2. On Season 1, I talked to expats about their favourite holiday destination. On Season 2, I'll be doing things very differently. I'll be chatting to expats about where they currently live, why they chose that destination, all those secret hidden gems that only locals know, like favourite restaurants, best neighbourhoods, things that tourists don't. Welcome back to the Truly Expat Travel Podcast. My name's Paula. I'm your host, and today I've got a great guest with a great destination. Welcome, Simo. Let's hear all about yourself and where you've come from and where you are now.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Paula. I'm happy to be here. Yeah, I'm Simo D. I'm a Canadian expat who now lives in Belize. I moved here with my family in 2022, just looking for just a different pace of life and a different kind of way of doing things than, the typical Canadian life. And we certainly found that. We certainly found that here. Belize is a small but beautiful country with like a rich cultural variety. And yeah, we absolutely love it here, and close to the sea and close to the jungle, and just, get a little bit more taste of nature and no winter. So that was a big one.
And so what are you doing there now? What took you there? What brought you there?
Like I said, we were just kind of wanting to do something a little different. And it was really, I guess, what prompted us was the birth of our first son. It was quite a traumatic birth. He nearly died, and he spent a month in the NICU. And that just really kind of shook things up for us. We were living what we thought was, just sort of like a safe life. And that event kind of just threw the fragility of life like in our faces. And we realized that like nothing is really for sure. Nothing is really, guaranteed. So if there's something that you just kind of that you want to do in your life, you just gotta do it, whether, you think you're ready for it or prepared for it, or whatever you tell yourself, reasons to talk yourself out of things. It's just, you kind of just do it, right? You just take a leap and go for it. And kind of at that point, we told ourselves that, no matter what happens, this isn't, this move won't be a failure. It'll just be, the gateway to whatever the next thing is. And yeah, I mean, 4 years later, we're still here. And yeah, that lesson was sort of repeated again. Our second son was born also into the NICU. He wasn't as nearly as severe as our first son, but we already had things well set on their way to moving, but that just kind of put the nail in the Canadian coffin, I guess you could say, because it just sort of, confirmed that this is what we want to be doing. And although we are grateful that, we had the birth in Canada, because, had we had gone through that experience here in Belize, I don't think, my first son or my wife would be with us, given that. So we were fortunate to go through that experience in Canada, but it was also sort of, I don't want to say a wake up call, but it was just putting things into perspective for us that, if there's something you want to do, just go and do it. And for us, that was moving to Belize.
Why Belize?
It was, my wife and I, we traveled quite a bit independently, but when we got together, we did quite a few trips together. And my wife would always just be like, let's move here. Let's, it'd be like Iceland or something. And I would be like, I don't want to move to Iceland. It's beautiful, but it's not, it's not my thing. But when she said it, when we were in Belize, I was like, you know what, this is actually a place that I can move to. It's close to Canada still. It's English speaking. The climate, while it can be quite hot, honestly, like there's times in the summer that actually Toronto is hotter than it is here. So we were sort of used to the heat, used to the bugs. If you spend a summer in Northern Ontario, the bugs are probably worse there than they are here. So it just kind of checked a lot of boxes. It was pretty easy to move to. It's pretty easy immigration process here.
Okay.
we have just started our residency. We just submitted our residency application for permanent residency like maybe a month or so ago. And so we were here as tourists for 4 years.
Okay.
A lot of countries, you cannot do that. You have a set period, and like in the European countries, and then you have to go. So yeah, Belize just kind of made that possible. And so yeah, that's kind of why we decided on Belize. In a previous marriage, I had considered moving to Costa Rica and stuff as well. So it was still something that I always wanted to do, was go and move abroad and live in another country. I have a brother who spent like over a decade in Hong Kong and Korea, and I did a bunch of traveling out in that way, and it just kind of got me interested in living in another country. And yeah, Belize is just, the people here are beautiful and friendly, and they make it really easy to be here.
So what is Belize famous for? Tell me a little bit about it.
Oh, that's an interesting one. I would say, they're not a very big country. There's only 400,000 people in the entire country. So, but I would say they're known for the Barrier Reef, really. It's the second largest in the world, next to Great Barrier Reef in Australia. It's the Barrier Reef off the coast of Belize. And then they also have a really popular diving destination called the Blue Hole, which is like a massive sinkhole that's like, 400 or 500 feet deep, and you can go and dive it. It's pretty much, if you were to Google Blue Hole, that's what would come up, and that's here in Belize. So I would say that those are sort of like touristy type things, but they're also known for, they have lots of Mayan ruins here. There's like a high concentration of Mayan ruins here in the country, and not the biggest ones, not like in Guatemala, but yeah, there's quite a few. And yeah, I would say a lot of it is the reef, and like their island system here is probably what they're best known for.
Do you dive?
I do. I haven't done it since we moved here. We moved here with a 7-week-old and a 18-month-old, and starting fresh with no help. We've been on kid duty. There's no family here to support, and creating a whole new friend network, and just finding babysitters and stuff. It took quite a bit of time. So yeah, not too much personal time, but lots of family time. And that was one of the reasons why we came here, was to spend more time with our kids. And we do. We've been with them almost full time since we moved here. They're now in school, but I think we spend a lot more time with them here in Belize than we probably would have back in Canada. And that we did when we were back in Canada and we had our first son. And, I would work. I'm still self-employed, but at a construction company, and I would leave super early in the morning and get back in the evening and would barely see them. So that's definitely not the case. I drive my kids to school every day. And so I'm just a lot more kind of plugged into their life. And that was one of the goals of coming here.
And is there anything about the climate that took you off guard?
The heat. We knew it was hot, but we had come when it was like touristy season, so the temperatures were ideal. They were in the 80s or the high 20s Celsius, and we just hadn't experienced what a Belizean summer was like. And the second year that we were here, it was like record heat in the country of all time. It was like over 50 degrees here for days on end. And it was so dry that year. There was no rain for like 8 months, and it was just hot and dry. And that was a huge shocker. My whole family got prickly heat. I don't know if the listeners know what that is, or if you know what that is. It's just like heat rash, and it's super uncomfortable. And so my kids and I, we got it. My wife, she was spared. I don't know how, but the three of us got it. And it was just, so that was a big shock for sure.
So when is the best month to travel there then, if the summer is really hot?
I would say the best time is sort of like early December. So you're past hurricane season, but you get some cool temperatures here at that time. Evenings can get down to like 18, 17, but during the day, it's still like in the high 20s.
Nice.
And it's usually the weather you get lots of sun. That's the thing here, right? So that, I would say that's the best time to go. You're going to get the kind of the best, nicest days, comfortable evenings, especially if you're doing anything if you're staying in a place that doesn't have air conditioning, or, you're kind of doing like a off-grid type thing, you would want those conditions, because it can be quite uncomfortable, in an off-grid scenario, kind of like right around this time of the year. Although this year hasn't been too bad. This has been like one of the nicer of the 4 years that we've had here at this time for the summer. Right now, the evening's like 25 maybe at the most. So, but it can be, you can sometimes get, like 2 years ago, it was 35 degrees at night. I mean, you can't sleep. Without air conditioning, there's no being comfortable.
And did you say it's dry heat? It's not humid. For some reason, I thought it might have been humid down there.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hey, it's Paula here. I just wanted to take a few seconds to say thank you. Thank you for listening to this show. It really does mean the world. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love it if you could leave us a review. It helps people find us, and honestly, it just keeps this podcast going. And if you're feeling extra generous, well, we have a buy me a coffee option. Every little bit helps me making episodes like this one.
There is humidity here. Yeah, it just kind of it varies. The weather really is like it's not really the same all the time. When I first arrived here, I asked somebody, when is rainy season? And they told me when it rains. And I thought that was the dumbest answer I've ever heard, because there's a rainy season. But after being here for 4 years, I'm like, I totally get it, because some years there's no rainy season. Like it's rainy season, it does not rain. So rainy season is when it rains. And then you get like this year, your dry season was quite wet. Right. So I kind of like now understand what that answer was. At the time I was like, this doesn't make sense, but no, it definitely does make sense now that I'm here. I've been here for a while and more of like a local person. And it's funny.
For tourists, do you think that they need to hire a car, or can you use public transport there?
I would say get a car. Mm-hmm. Public transpo is a bit of an issue here. It's getting a little bit better, but it's not reliable. And it's kind of colloquially called the chicken bus, because I've never taken it. I have taken chicken buses in my travels in Southeast Asia. So there's literally chickens in baskets in the car. And at that time, actually, this was Southeast Asia, but there's goats on the roof of the bus. And you could hear them clunking around on every turn. Nothing like that is that extreme here, but everything's pretty, even though it's a small country, everything is quite spread out. There's lots of like natural parks, lots of green space. And as a result, you really need to drive to get there. So if you're not hiring, or you're not renting a car, you're hiring vans and taking public transportation that you can sort of manage to coordinate, you're going to be doing that all the time. So it's just more convenient, and it gives you the ability to kind of stop on a whim and go see something that maybe you hadn't planned on, which, there's lots of that kind of stuff. Even if it's just like a impromptu kind of festival, like community festival or something you drive through and you want to stop, but if you're on a bus, you can't do it, right? So if you have a car, you can easily just pull into that and go and enjoy and hang out with some local people, and they're always really friendly, and you never feel. We just did this actually just like maybe a month ago. We went to a Mennonite market, and on the way back, there was the place, the local kind of Belizean place was called Pomona. It's pretty well known here in Belize because it's where Caribbean Pride makes all the orange juice essentially for the country. And so, we stopped in there, and it was like a weekend festival. And we just kind of, we were able to partake. But again, it's like, that's not something you're going to be able to do if you don't have your own vehicle. And if you're coming here, rent a car and drive the Hummingbird Highway. It is like the most beautiful drive you'll probably ever do. It is just absolutely amazing. We love doing it. We like purposely make plans to drive to Belmopan, which is the nation's capital, and just so we can go and drive it. It's just mountains and orange orchards and just flowers alongside the road, and these massive mahogany trees and ceiba trees, and it's just beautiful drive. So I just recommend, like, as even like an activity, rent a car and do that drive, and it's just it's absolutely amazing. There's a lot of wildlife, a lot of birds and things. Yep. There's what is the stat? We just met a local guy recently. He used to be a bird guide. Yeah, there's like hundreds of varieties of birds here. I think it was something like, I can't remember. I shouldn't probably say it because I can't verify it, but it was Belize has like one of the highest rates of like variation in species or something like that.
Yeah. Do you know, it's funny you say that because I
checked that one, but
yeah, I remember reading that somewhere. That's why I asked about the bird life.
Yeah, it's amazing. There's just, and we get just stuff like just even in our lot, and we're like kind of in a touristy area. And there's lots of development around, but we get, green-headed parrots and roadside hawks and all sorts of, I don't know the names of these birds. I'm not much of an ornithologist.
They're just pretty.
We get lots, we get lots here, and they all have these distinct calls. And there's actually an app called Merlin app, which you can like record when you hear a bird call. You can record it, and it tells you what the bird is. So I've downloaded that. I've actually not used it yet, but yeah, there's tons of wildlife here. Yeah, there's lots of jaguar preservation here, and if you go to the local zoo, you can see some live jaguars and tapirs and harpy eagles and these things called jacabi storks. If you Google that, it's like they look like the Grim Reaper. They're creepy looking bird, but very cool. Yeah, there's lots of cool wildlife and stuff here, and there's really a lot to do if you're into like outdoor activities and kind of adventure seeking type stuff. There's lots of caving and tubing and jungle trekking and zip lining and ATVing, all that kind of stuff you can do here in Belize. And there's actually a couple really good place called the ATM Cave. I don't know the actual. It's an acronym for the Mayan word, but if you Google ATM Cave, it's actually like you go spelunking essentially down into the heart of this mountain, and inside is an old Mayan ruin, and there's like artifacts and like skeletons and stuff all in there. And
that's cool.
Yeah, I've yet to do it because we are young kids. Like we couldn't do it with young kids yet, but we're waiting for them to get a little bit older, maybe 7 and 8, and then they can go with us. And it's something we're looking forward to do. But yeah, that's like a big attraction here, which is just sort of on the outskirts of Belmopan, which is again the nation's capital.
So then, if I asked you to do, what would a 3-day itinerary look like for not touristy stuff, but if you were to show people around, some friends come to visit, what would a 3-day itinerary look like to you then?
Yeah, that's a tough one. That compresses things down. For sure, I would say go out and do an island. There's lots of like local islands you can get to and just do a day trip. That's really fun. And it's kind of like a must do really when you're here. And then I'd say day 2, rent a car, drive up, do the ATM Cave and then stay a night in like San Ignacio, which is close to the Guatemalan border. There's some other ruins there. So there's some really nice like accommodations, and then there's a market there. And that would give you like a really good kind of taste of Belize. You would see all the different cultural groups here and experience all the different languages. And because Belize is like just a melting pot of cultures here. You have Mennonites and Chinese and Indians and Mayans and Spanish descendants and British and lots of expats. There's Lebanese people here. There's Jewish people here. It's crazy for 400,000 people. Yeah. It's like truly a multicultural society here. And then mestizos, Garifuna. There's so many. And again, right. And like I came from Canada, and Canada sort of prides itself on being multicultural, and it is. But when you have that many different cultural groups in such a small space, it's like everyone really does get along. There's a little bit of segregation because the Mennonites typically just stick to themselves and do their own thing, and it's fair enough because they live like it was 150 years ago. But it's just everyone's just shoulder to shoulder getting along. So there's a common language, which is Creole. So Belize is English speaking as a former British colony, but and part of the Commonwealth. But Spanish is really big language here. But everybody, and then obviously all the imported languages, lots of Chinese and like Taiwanese and stuff like that here. But everyone, all the local people speak Creole to each other. So there's lots of code switching, and you'll hear like all different languages and stuff when you're here. And so that 3-day itinerary would probably give you a taste of like all of that, So you get the Caribbean vibe going out to the islands, driving up to Hummingbird, you would get, you'd see Mennonites and stuff. And at the market, there'd be a mix of people, going to the caves, you would get some taste of the Mayan culture. You'd probably stop at a Chinese grocer on the way somewhere. And then you go to San Ignacio and they have really good food. And you could find some French cuisine. There's a really nice place called the Guavalim up there. And they do like French, I believe it's French cuisine. And there's a French bakery in there as well. So you get like a real good taste of like all the different cultures of Belize on those.
Then what is the food like there? What do I have to try if I'm arriving there? What is something that I really have to try?
Belizean cuisine is a lot of like rice and beans and barbecue chicken. They have a couple or one thing for sure that is like 100% Belizean, which is the fry jack. It's essentially, they take like a ball of tortilla dough and they deep fry it and it kind of balls up into like a hollow puff essentially. And then they cut it open and you can stuff it with all sorts of stuff. So you could have like a savory one, a breakfast one, with eggs and bacon in it. Or you can do like sweet. You could put like, I don't know, like any jam or something like that in it. They're really tasty. It's kind of like a donut, but it's not like fried sweet kind of thing. It's like sort of like it bridges the gap. So you can make it kind of almost like how a crepe would be, how you can make them sweet or savory. Fry jacks are definitely the same. And then there's, I don't know if this is specifically Belizean, but there's lots of garnaches, which is, I guess that's Spanish. So that's sort of like finger food, street style finger food. So lots of like tacos and fried tacos and pupusas and like a lot of those they're all like kind of different variety of tacos and burritos and that kind of stuff. And they're really good. And it's really, they're everywhere. There's lots of like street side places that you can get that kind of stuff or barbecue chicken. I would say, that's kind of generally like Belizean food. And the fry jack is like, if you come to Belize, you got to eat a fry jack. You haven't been to Belize if you don't eat a fry jack.
Okay. And is it a tipping culture?
It is. Like tourism is huge here. It's like 48% of the GDP. So, and wages are really quite low. The average person makes like $250 USD an hour. So that's like $5 Belize dollars. So tipping is typically encouraged. Yeah. It is, and you should, and I think you should. If you're getting really good service, then definitely you should, because it really helps the service industry workers here for sure. Because the wages are it's much lower than what we'd be used to in North America for sure, or Australia.
Is there any hidden gems that you'd like to mention?
The hidden gem I would say for my area is a place called Placencia Yacht Club. So I live on a peninsula, and at the end of it is an island, and there's, I believe she's Swiss woman and her husband. They have a little marina there where people in sailboats can come and moor and just kind of get their feet on some dry land and kind of shower and hang out there. And she has a dock and a little restaurant, and it's the most beautiful sunset, I think, on all of Belize. Like, it's just a completely unobstructed view of the sun setting behind the sea, and it's just absolutely amazing. And it's not like super well known, I don't think. You do have to kind of call ahead, and she brings a boat out for you to bring you over, and she only takes she can only have so many guests at once. So you kind of have to coordinate it a bit, but it is absolutely, awesome. And then I would say another one would be a little restaurant just as you come into Belmopan called Simple Life. It's like a Taiwanese place with just amazing dumplings. If you're into that. Yeah. Just awesome. Two awesome spots that, I recommend to anybody who comes.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm really excited about, I've not done any of kind of like Central or South America. So for me, anything about it is exciting because it's somewhere where I'd like to go in the future, not too long away. But how can people get in touch with you if they want to contact you?
Yeah, they can find me on Substack, Unfiltered Abroad, as well as BotBot if you're into AI and stuff like that. That's my day job. And then you can also find me movesmart.world, which is an AI integrated platform I built that helps people decide where they want to move to and relocate abroad. And then if you're into AI news and updates, you can find me at topainews.today. Yeah, those are the main ways. And then I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook. And so,
awesome. I'll put all of them.
Thank you so much for having me, Paula. I appreciate it.
That's okay.
It's fun.
Thank you for coming on. But I'll put it all in the show notes for people that want to contact you. And again, thank you so much for coming on. And I'll see you all next week on the Truly
Awesome.
Expat Travel. Bye. Thank you for joining me on the Truly Expat Travel podcast. If you liked this episode and you found it valuable, then why don't you go ahead and like and subscribe so that you don't miss an episode moving forward. I've got some amazing guests and some fantastic destinations coming up. But if this is the episode and this is the destination that you really want to go to, then I suggest you head over to trulyexpattravel.com, where you'll find travel guides and deep dive into this sort of destination. If that's not what you want and you can't find an episode that is a destination you want to travel to, then head over and follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, because I'm pretty sure you'll find something there. In the meantime, safe travels, and I'll see you next week.